No turning back. We have our ancestors with us. We're going to continue to dance with them. Dreaming them. Calling them. Being them. We are becoming what we were.
It is part of that Mayan prophecies.
7 triangles of light.
Keep walking. You are the spirit of Unapu. Keep walking. We the human, we are doing the spirit of Unapu.
People who say that the gods made them from corn. They planned their lives according to the heavens. Well versed in astronomy, using a sophisticated mathematics, they calculated the movements of the night sky thousands of years into the past and thousands of years into the future. They knew that the universe moved in cycles. Their lives were ruled by the rhythms of the natural world. Planting and harvesting, birth and death, just as the great tree of life emerges from the earth.
Always they're connected. Science and religion.
In dreams, we learn from the Maya gods when to plant and when to harvest, when to set the fire, and when to do the corn ceremony.
What we're digging up, what we're coming up with is part of our history. And the men that lived here are some of the greatest men we've ever had. And it's the fact that we're getting to know more and more and more about the life of these people.
They still maintain their customs. They still maintain their ways of organizing their societies. And it's very exciting to see how much of the ancient Maya way of life is still alive and well.
Because American history does not begin in 1492 with Columbus. It begins in 200 BC with the first Maya king who wrote his name on a stone. What is happening now is the people who made these places, people like Yashpak or Bird Jaguar or Pakal, are getting back their voices. They are becoming real to us and speaking to the people of the 20th century about who built this place and why and what they felt and what they thought about the world. These are not anonymous people anymore.
You are the spirit of Unapu. Keep walking. We the human, we are doing the spirit of Unapu.
Yo, LA Natives
LA
podcast,
Natives.
Las Aslan Natives podcast, man. Yo, shout out to all the early birds, man. We were just talking about this. I was just talking about this with Zero, man. Like, we have some diehards, bro.
Yeah.
Shout out to the chat. It's already lit.
The chat. Whenever I start seeing people type in and expressing right when we go on, it's like we're in the same community, you know, and we're all just trying to express ourselves. So feel free to keep doing that. Even if it's a disagreement, even if you don't, like I said, we're not seeing eye to eye as LA Natives podcast or your own personal opinion, because we can't always have the same opinion, you know? We have to be diverse in that way.
And we've learned the hard way through the trials and tribulations of the podcast, man. We've had some great explosive episodes, man. And
we've got...
I love the indigenous community.
Yeah, it needs this. You know, it needs a place where, you know, there's no judgment, there's no superiority, there's just work that needs to be done. And I was explaining that today to somebody at the Malinali, to one of my good friends, Gabriel Ejecat, Sipatli. He's helping us do a pulque night at Malinali. So on Friday, we're gonna have a pulque night. And so just go to Malinali's page for more information on that. But I was explaining to him that like sometimes we try to solve every single problem, and we can't do that. Our job is to be strong in our own understandings and contribute to what we see happening. You cannot have a leader when the anthill has been destroyed. There's no leaders when the anthill has been destroyed. There's only workers and rebuilders. And that's what we have to see each other as.
And most importantly, please hit the like button on the YouTube video. Support the channel. Cop a t-shirt. All the links are in the YouTube descriptions. Subscribe, share the video, man, because our stats are overwhelming, man. The ratio between subscriber and viewership is almost 40-50%, Zero.
Yeah.
So all we need is for everyone that's tuning in right now on Spotify or on YouTube or on Apple Podcast, just share the content, please, because that's all we need. Just a share. That's it. And a like or a comment.
You guys feel free to sample a part of the show that you felt relevant, share it on TikTok. You have all of our permission to do that. I mean, there's
because all you guys have listened to every podcast, and you guys know the value in this.
Yeah, and if you want to share it, we're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. We're trying to grow this community so that we can eventually come out with some future plans. There's a lot of things happening for spring. Like, I've been praying since 1994 for a time where we would have a space and a community that is all kind of working together. Like I said, like we saw the anthill that smashed, and we're all kind of working together towards the same thing. And there's a lot of people that have been working on that. And now we have a place that's open 6 days a week, Malinali Superfoods, in which you can come in, eat, but also read a book, meet up with the organization. I mean, this is happening 6 days a week. Like, we don't have to wait for anything. We don't have to complain or do anything but participate in the rebuilding of the anthill.
And shout out to Mananani Superfoods. You know, when before it opened, Zero told me about all these ideas he had.
Yeah.
And they're coming about, and they're coming about in a real way.
Yeah, because there's some real prayers out there that a lot of the community members, like when you guys go out there and sweat and go do the sweats, and when you go out there and do the sun dances or whatever it is, even a meditation, even just lighting a candle in your room, and you say a prayer for the hope of our community, this is what happens. The earth responds. The earth responds with strong people that are willing to take on the responsibility. I would like to think of myself as one of those people. I took on the responsibility for my community, and now am contributing in a sovereign way onto fixing the anthill. The complexity of problems don't go away overnight, but you can contribute every day. And if you focus in with all the elements of Mother Earth, the sunrise, the sunset, and anything in between, you will accomplish the rebuilding of that anthill.
And everyone that we interview contributes to that in their own way, right, Zero?
Mm-hmm. Yes, because it's, you know, the complexities of that. I mean, everyone has their role. Eventually, when the anthill gets destroyed and all the ants try to either look for a new location or they fix the one that's existing, everyone plays a role, and they do it willingly and happily. You know, it's when we have the disharmony that we don't get to rebuild anything. So we have to focus in on playing our role in a sovereign way. And I'm not saying that you have to agree with everything and everyone. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying stand strong enough, be educated or informed enough to contribute to what you see is the problem.
And I think a word that you could attach that to, it's ultimately you have to be consistent.
Yes. That's one thing I learned.
Yeah, like you play a role, but are you consistent with it naturally, right?
What a cool word. Like consistent.
Like the homie Product Pistola, shout out to Bro, he's consistent.
Yeah. Yeah, he puts out product, he's consistent.
Indigenous 1492, the homie Richie, he's consistent.
Yeah. All these
Dakota
really
Bear,
artists.
extremely consistent.
It's extremely consistent and on time and professional. Shout out
Indigenous cats. They've been consistent since I've met them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, their tracks don't, they don't vary. You know what I mean? Have you been to like a kind of a show where, you got a couple bangers and then like, whoa, what happened after that? But nevertheless, the community's growing. We are in our second year. We're going to plan for October, 9th.
Yep.
And
Indigenous Peoples Day. It was a great event, man. And
But before that, we're going to have Mexica New Year.
yes, Mexica New Year. Shout out to Jag.
Yeah. And also
Shout out to Tochli from San Jose as well.
Absolutely. He does the big Mexica New Year in the Bay Area. I also want to, I just want to announce some things. I'm really inspired and energized. The word consistency is associated with my diet because I've been mineralizing for a very long time now. And each year, I used to dread looking forward to my 5-day fast. I used to have a hard time with it. The first couple of years are hard, but now I'm looking forward to it. I'm already practicing it. I'm already getting myself prepared to fast for 5 days. So my prayer can get, so that I could be strong enough to fulfill my prayer. Not so that the Creator can give me this magical wish and, oh yeah, this guy suffered or whatever. No, the fasting is so that you can get stronger to fulfill your prayer. And that's what I'm doing with Malenali Superfoods, with LA Natives, with anything that I'm focused on is for the 7 generations and the true history and story of our community and people.
If you visit our Instagram, if you visit Zero's Instagram, he has music out right now. There's a new mixtape.
Yeah.
Please support, download it, purchase it, share it. But most importantly, there's a new single coming out. It's quite possibly the best single I've ever heard in the Indigenous community, man. Warlock is amazing, the producer, man. Shout out to Warlock.
Shout
DJ
out,
Warlock 1.
Yeah, shout out to DJ Warlock 1. He produced my new single. I'm going to call it East Los N8V. So East Los Native, but with an acronym that we came up with in El Vuh. Shout out to Eric and Victor for, putting that out there. Anything I do is going to be associated with the group that I loved a lot. So it's kind of an homage to them. But there is a new track. There is a new Zero track and produced by DJ Warlock 1. And I'm really proud of it. I think it fits right into a new genre of hip hop that's emerging, like the drumless beat. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna give it a shot with that.
It's a trip how the whole drumless beat scenario came about. I think it was, I don't know, for me with Action Bronson, Rock Marciano, and then the whole, Griselda drumless beat wave kicked in.
I heard a song a long time ago, way, way, way before this movement, done by Ghostface. And I thought it was a weird track because it was just one soul loop. It was just the same loop over and over again. It was just a soul loop, and then Ghostface was just going off on it. He was just like blah 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 blah, and it was just like. At the time, I was like, man, what a lazy producer. But now in 2023, you're like, damn, that's a new version of hip hop. Mm-hmm. He was so ahead of his time. Ghostface, shout out to Ghostface. So yeah, man, I thought I put my name in that drumless beat category, and came up with the song with DJ Warlock 1. This should be out in maybe, I don't know, I got to talk to DJ Warlock 1, but soon. Mm-hmm. I'm talking weeks, maybe a week, maybe 2. We got to put it out, and then the video will be coming soon after that.
And everyone needs to share it once it's released, for sure.
Absolutely.
Man, Ghostface, man, one of the most consistent artists ever.
Yeah, we played with him at the Roxy. The dude showed up at 1:30 to play his set. He played for 10 minutes. That's when we were getting booked by Sean Healy. So it was dope.
Shout out to Sean Healy. He's still doing his thing.
Yeah.
Man. Okay, so Zero sent us a link. There's this page called Watched History on TikTok. Man, I need to get on the whole TikTok bandwagon, man. They have, what, 471,000 followers, Zero?
Yeah, bro.
What the fuck? Let's go ahead and play one of these videos real quick. Let's see what's going on.
Pope Victor I was the first African pope and served as the Bishop of Rome from 189 to 199 AD. He was known for his strong stance on the proper day for celebrating Easter and for his efforts to bring unity to the early Christian church. He was known.
So before I play more of this, what is this about, Zero?
Okay. We've been studying history, at least the contemporary version of history, for a long time, and it never really exceeds like past 1492, 1400s, right? 1400s, never 1300s, never 1100, never 800, never 300 AD. There's like a missing void of history that nobody wants you to know about. And I thought this TikTok was interesting because it started showing popes that were from Africa. And I thought, wow, there was a black pope. And then you start digging a little bit deeper and you start realizing, whoa, how come no one ever talks about this time? So if you go, listen very carefully at the timelines.
Pope Victor I was the first African pope and served as the Bishop of Rome from 189 to 199 AD. He was known for his strong stance on the proper day for celebrating Easter and for his efforts to bring unity to the early Christian church. Pope Miltiades was born in Africa and served as pope from 311 to 314 AD. During a time of significant political and religious change in the Roman Empire, he played a key role in the development of the Christian church in Rome and was remembered for his piety and wisdom. Pope Gelasius I was born in Africa and served as pope from 492 to 496 AD. He was known for his efforts to assert the authority of the papacy and for his writings on Christian doctrine and practice. Pope Victor I.
Why is this relevant? For me, it's the timelines.
Yep.
The timelines are way, way before 1492, right? By 1492, we had some white popes, right? European popes. So the term, the black nobility, kind of like made its way into like, just curious about it. And then you start saying, what, there was African popes, right? And then all of a sudden, there's like Caucasian popes. And now all of them from this point on are going to be Caucasian. And then the history of 1492 and before is erased. To me, it just seems like another version of like the hidden hand, right? Like how disappointing would that be if they found out that the oppression that Africans have been facing has been from their own. We know what it's like because it was our own people that turned us in. You know what I mean? Betrayed by our own people. But it's something to think about when we start putting a blame on the white man, because it's not the white man. Now that we clearly see there are people of African descent who sat in the most vicious, brutal, ever known.
This is the story
across the globe of being the most violent warmongers. Is the Catholic
of Mansa Musa, the 14th century emperor that ruled the Mali Empire from 1312 to 1337. Considered the wealthiest person in history, Mansa Musa was known for his generosity and willingness to share his wealth. In 1324, he made his first pilgrimage to Mecca with a procession of 60,000 men and 12,000 servants, all carrying gold bars. His extravagant spending and sharing large amounts of gold caused a significant inflation in Egypt, which took over a decade to recover. Mansa Musa was inspired by knowledge and established universities and libraries, including the famous Sankore University in Timbuktu. He also sponsored the construction of many architectural works, including the famous Jinga River Mosque in Timbuktu. Mansa Musa's legacy still endures to this day, and he is remembered as one of Africa's greatest rulers. His empire was a time of prosperity and cultural flourishing, and he remains an important figure in African history and a symbol of wealth and power.
So what happened? He lost all his money all of a sudden? All of a sudden, the richest man on the entire planet, he was bringing in tons and tons of gold. So much gold, he brought in so much gold on his own that it fucked up the economy in Egypt. Like too many people had too much gold. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, what, like they lost the money? Or what happened? You know, some white dude just came and took it from you? That's some interesting things to start researching.
And this is a TikTok channel that has almost 500,000 followers.
Yeah.
Washed History. I love that title.
Yeah.
It's just
we're getting to that age or phase where we have to go beyond 1492. We have to go beyond just the white man. It's not just the white man. It's a group of elites from different parts of the world. I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm only saying this for an example, so don't get it twisted. I'm not trying to say that there's a native there, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was. How else would they know our customs, our ways, our traditions, if someone of us isn't there? So what I'm trying to say is, don't look at the person's skin color or skin tone. Look at the person's actions. No matter what, that's been the biggest con, is that somebody of our color is defending us, right? When they're actually working with them. They're just making a hoopla. Yeah, they're willing to sacrifice whatever it is that's going on for the bigger picture of you're in control, right? So that's just, I thought it would be something, to throw to the audience of LA natives to be critically minded.
But like the homie 3Pac 1995 says, like, these are things that ultimately you have to search outside of school.
Of course. That's
and that's an effort into itself, bro.
But
especially right now in this society.
Look, think of the modern day education as a chicken coop. This is the wired fence that keeps you and your perspective locked into the superiority, the white supremacy superiority, or the noble monarch superiority, which is really what it is. The kings and queens did not go away. They just hid and financed and did the back seat and watched the game. You know what I mean? Like, we can't be quick to say, oh, it's just the white cops. It has nothing to do with color. It has to do with actions. Because the person that they beat up, wasn't it recently, the police officers, they were all African American.
They beat the shit out of that dude to death, man.
Right?
Yep.
And they were all the same color. But we're stuck on, no, it's the white man. No, it's this. No, it's not. It's the people's actions. It's what the person decides to do to hurt the other person. That's what determines. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you have to get at one point go, wow, the Bible came with the doctrine of discovery, right? And murdered people in the name of this book. That's not a peaceful book. We refer to it as, oh, look at the knowledge that it has, but it's not a peaceful book. We have history. And if you say that it isn't a peaceful book, well, either you're crazy or you're a devil person. No, it's not. You're pointing out the obvious. And that's what a narcissist, monarch, elite makes you feel bad about standing up for yourself. But it goes across. It's not about color. Color is fake. The race thing is fake. There's just people who have been on this earth and been in places for a very long time. There is no race associated to it. It'd be stupid to think that we from Africa didn't travel to Asia and didn't travel. We traveled everywhere. That's where the whites got it from. Right? It's just that they started turning on everyone. They started working together and then built a system. But someone had to help them.
Well, the homie David Escobar says all these books are resources now, bro. You can't be closed-minded like that when you're seeking truth.
Absolutely not. And really, you can't rely on the book to be the truth. You have to really go into when one becomes sovereign of everything in terms of like this society, then books become like Post-its, cliff notes, essays, not really factual information. That's the problem with sometimes when we read books is that we go, oh, now we know the truth. But it's like, I don't know if you've ever done this, but Star Wars is a book that's like super thick, but the movie's only 2 hours long. So they condense the shit out of that book into a movie. Well, in the same frame, even if the book is really thick, it's still a condensation of what actually happened. You understand? So they're just references and information. So not only would you use books, but you use documentaries, you would use elders, you would go to communities and ask people who live there, gather your own understanding, create a sovereign thought, and that is your perspective. But it has nothing to do with race. That's just mindless, blaming, finger pointing, not doing anything. And they want you to stay in that state. They want you to finger point all day long as you don't do anything about it. And what I mean by do anything about it is fix yourself. See, they can't do nothing if you fix yourself. Fixing yourself is probably the most revolutionary thing you could do. Fixing yourself is probably the most spiritual thing you can do. What do I mean by fixing yourself? Is controlling your diet, knowing your spirituality, and expressing your art to the highest level in every regard.
The homie 3Pac 1995 says the Vatican has a whole library, but it's closed off. Only a few can go.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what really happened that they want to hide from the masses.
I mean, the dates that we played in that TikTok were insane, right? It was like 189 AD to 199 AD. Like no one really, there are no books that really kind of go into that time frame. It's unusual to not talk about that. You know what I mean? Like no, and probably those are the books that are locked away in the library. No, that's irrelevant history to what's happening now. But it isn't. You know, all information should be shared and never locked away. This is how we evolve as humans, by sharing. If we don't share our information, then we're hoarding. And hoarding is just selfish. You know what I mean? Like you can't, these things are not meant to be held in that manner. And that's what I mean. Like the elders that we come from spent years and years and years upon years upon years of observation. They had to share the knowledge so that the next generation could take the knowledge that they had and build upon it. This is how we get profound works of art, pyramids, calendar systems, mathematics, spirituality. All that comes with years upon years upon years upon years of observation and passing that information down. When you hoard it, you create a blockage. And in any blockage, eventually, it's going to burst because it's a flow. It's not yours. That's why we passed it on to the next generation, because it wasn't ours. We observed it. We wrote it down. Now it's time to pass it on. That's the one thing in Mexican culture or indigenous culture.
And the homie David right here in the chat says something about I could relate to, and a lot of people could relate to. Like you grew up following the red road, but then you're hearing the Bible at the same time through your family, or you're forced to go to church, and there's like an awkward balance there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now is the time to confront that. Not in a bad way, but you can't ignore the truth. That is not life. Our ancestors didn't go observe constellations and create math equations that resulted in scientific reactions that, they didn't do that just to keep it for themselves. We would have never had the Mayan pyramids or the 21,000 pyramids that exist on this continent.
The people from the Nile Valley were the very
It had to be shared. It had to be shared.
first people to develop a concept of time. Time is a concept that sprang from the minds of African people. They were the first people to divide the day into 24 hours. They were the first people to develop the calendar, 365 and a quarter days. They were the first people to build with stone. They were the first people to develop systems of education. The first universities. They invented writing. They invented paper. They developed libraries. They were the first physicians, the first psychologists, the first dentists, the first brain surgeons. They were the first governors, the first rulers. The people from the Nile Valley were the very first people to develop a concept.
Wow, that's crazy.
I mean, that's the person's opinion, because what people don't know, as he was saying, we had the first doctors and the first.
Well, he was saying the Egyptians.
Yeah,
I doubt that though.
Well, I mean, I'm not challenging it, nor am I saying that he's right or wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we all exist during, okay, come on, bro. The Roman Catholic Church put linear time in motion when we all knew it was cyclical, right? If your concepts are not cyclical, then you're not doing observations or correct observations. So stick to the cultures that went into cyclical understandings, because we all know things repeat. Winter, summer, fall, spring, all these things repeat. So that means time is cyclical. Now, he was saying that they were the first governors, the first physicians, scientists, and blah, blah, blah.
Libraries.
Cool. I get it. Egypt was very advanced, but a lot of people don't know that the Maya and the Tolteca and the Olmeca and the Mexica did plant medicine and animal medicine. In other words, they used to use the venom of a snake to do dental surgery. Their thousands of years of observation led them to a medicinal and spiritual practice that was in tune with nature, not dominating it. That's the only way you can use a poisonous venom for a human healing. You have to be in tune with nature. So to say that you're the first is claiming origin. And we all know that humans cannot claim origin. This earth has been here far longer than us. Who knows what or where we came from? There are small points that you can point at, But that's why our ancestors understood that it was cyclical and dimensional. Cyclical and dimensional. And I'll leave that up to you to define. Different dimensions, different portals, different states of mind, different energies, different plants, different animals. All of our history and symbols and math and frequency and songs revolve around nature and not disturbing it or controlling it.
So this is a video that's titled, "How Did the First British Look Like? Ancient History."
2, 3.
The Natural History Museum is about to witness the unveiling of a new head. The first Brit is in town. After all the work, the time has come.
1, 2, 3.
Hey. Brilliant.
Are you shocked already?
Really.
They're all laughing.
They're shocked because it's not white.
Shout out to Washed History and TikTok. 500,000 subscribers with almost 5 million likes, bro.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. That was pretty good information that they shared. And I know, now, before I used to go on TikTok and just believe everything. Now I have to do like the backup research. But I did do the research, and there were these African popes, and I'm like, whoa, you got to be an elite to do that. You got to be an elite to sit in those seats, And then all of a sudden now there's none. That's an interesting part of history that we need to kind of go into and just realize who we're dealing with. Because if you're blaming one person and it's another person, then you're not even oriented. You're disoriented. Right? But remember, we have observation of nature. The symbols of plants, animals, flowers, trees, all that medicine lives within us. I've never seen a disoriented jaguar in the jungle. I've never seen a disoriented eagle in the wild. We're very focused. We're very connected. No one can strip that from us. It's in our DNA. As we adjust our bad habits or colonial habits, free ourselves from these very simplistic emotional ties to things that don't really elevate us in any way, then we can tap into our true nature, because we are nature. At least that's what the elders say. Speaking of elders, recently,
a lot of
some stuff
is going down with this guy, Nathan Chasing. Let's go ahead and play this video right here real quick.
Monday.com makes GANs great again. Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to say again because they never were.
Nathan Lee Chasing Horse. A former actor who starred in the movie Dances with Wolves has been arrested. Nathan Lee Chasing Horse, who goes by Nathan Chasing Horse, was taken into custody at his Las Vegas home that he shared with 5 wives, according to the Associated Press. After his acting days, Nathan Chasing Horse became a medicine man who performed healing ceremonies and
9 wives
and spiritual gatherings. He is now accused of sexually assaulting young indigenous girls over the course of 2 decades, according to police records obtained by the AP. The arrest follows an investigation that stemmed from a tip to police. Chasing Horse is believed to be the leader of a cult called The Circle, according to a 50-page search warrant obtained by the AP. Authorities are now working to create a unit of experts to handle cases like this one involving indigenous women.
Yo, a cult.
Do you see that? That's why I wanted to bring it up. Not the fact that I'm like defending Nathan or any of that, because I don't know the details of of what's happened or who's doing what. And truly, when you go into Hollywood, there's some weird stuff happening. You know what I mean? And I can't really comment on that. But
And
what I
they've been
can
chasing
comment
horse.
on, what I can comment on is that fucking reporter saying that he was leader of a cult. He was healing people with native practices and calling it a cult. That's what I have a problem with. What, they're going to start going into sweat lodge families and start saying, oh, this is a cult? This is not a cult. I just explained that our depth in nature is connected. And you got to be very careful. You got to be very careful when you're asking for humility and connection with very powerful things. Eagle feathers, lessons from a medicine man, things like that, of that nature, carry a responsibility. And if you're careless with the responsibility, sometimes bad things like this happen. There's no superstar, medicine man. It's just you're here to fulfill what you need to fulfill, and if you're distracted, and obviously he was distracted very badly because now he's in jail. And I don't know him, and I'm not defending him because I don't know the details of what happened. But what I do know is that fucking reporter is saying that he is a leader of a cult, and we need to be aware of stuff like that. We need to be aware and make sure it gets corrected. And that's what I'm doing on LA Natives Podcast, because indigenous practices, whether it's a group of 50, 30, 20, is not a cult. A cult means hidden. I don't think he was inviting people to these ceremonies, as far as I know. Just because they had a name doesn't mean it's a cult. And our native practices should not be attacked. Now, just like in anything, you must be aware. What do you think? That's the one thing I tell people when they start finding the red road. I go, don't think that red road is all clear. There are predators on that red road, and you need to be aware. This is why it's so important to be sovereign and understanding what you're doing. What's your intention? How are you walking?
And this is something they're going to use against the indigenous community.
Absolutely. They're starting, look, the prophecy was that we would gather. We would start to gather and remember and share stories and share wisdom and share medicine. Well, when we do that, we strip away the power of big pharma, religion, education, information. They don't want to see that. They want to destroy anybody who has any sort of influence in that way. But I question their intelligence, their bravery. I'm not questioning their violence, because they've always been violent. But you can't keep a whole... This is the globe and the global population you're messing with. It's far bigger than your agenda. Your agenda only works in cities that are populated enough and educated enough to understand what you're saying and what your agenda is. So I don't put too much power into people who don't understand power. To understand power, you have to be observing nature for thousands of years. And as far as I know, as far as I've been communicated, as far as I put the puzzle together, as far as, whatever posted book that I read, I know that we've been studying sunrise, sunset, for 26,000 years. We have a calendar that proves it. That doesn't mean that we're smarter than anyone. That doesn't mean anything other than we've been observing nature for 26,000 years. We use its poisons as medicines. We use the animals to guide our spirits. We need to tap into that wisdom. Because when you do, you let go of that other oppressor.
So those are his charges right there. Sexual assault of child under 16, sexual assault, 2 counts, sex trafficking of adult, 2 counts, and child abuse, neglect.
Which is, you know.
3PAC 1995 says, if you notice in that first video, they snuck in at the end of it that the government is seeing what they can do.
Yeah. It's a special task force. She said it was this,
for this to never happen again.
Yeah. It's a special task force. It's like we need to be aware and tap into what we know as power. See, they think power is getting a police force and raiding your place and taking you to jail, and that's their power. But remember, this physical body isn't permanent. You know what I mean? Some people just don't fear it.
So he had 9 wives. That's.
I'm sure he had 9 relationships, but you know what? What I've heard, I think, and I don't want to say too much, but
and the reason why
I don't think in Native culture there's like that colonial wife and husband. That comes from colonial things. So I'm not surprised that he has more than one woman. Now, if they're underage, that's another thing. But I'm not surprised that he has more than one woman.
Well, you know, who was that one guy that we covered that got completely exposed?
Oh, Iron Jacket.
Iron Jacket.
Yeah.
Another one that had like multiple women.
Yeah. But I mean, just a little different because he was manipulating, you know, telling them, at least from what the women say, that, you know, he was trying to guide them and using them like that in that manner. Although that's not too far bad, you know, especially if you're an adult. You need to be able to understand who is a predator and who's manipulating you. You can't just be too lost.
And this is the guy that's his life is in this guy's hands right here. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just it doesn't surprise me when it comes to actors. You know what I mean? Actors always get wrapped up in things where, you know, if someone doesn't like you enough, things like this happen.
And guys, I see the comments in the chat. You know, you guys want to express your opinions. Feel free to call in. David, call in, man. The number's right there. If you want to, you know, express your opinion on this, talk to Zero. Feel free to do so, right, Zero? Like this is an open platform,
bro.
guys.
Absolutely.
Open platform right here.
Absolutely. Anybody has an opinion and wants to share it on live, just be respectful, you know?
But, you know, I just think it's weird how so many news organizations are covering it and just
Because they
highlighting Dances with Wolves. Like, you know, I remember growing up as a kid, that was kind of like the only, you know, movie that had even indigenous people in it.
Yeah. We thought, oh, wow, like a Native movie. It wasn't even about Native. It was about that dude that got stuck and how he, you know, found a family that adopted him, taught him, and included him. That's the Native way, is to include people and to share wisdom and to teach, and that's our way. That's our strength. Now, who we do that for, that needs to be a strength too. We need to be very careful on who we extend a handing help to, not just be blind.
But like Zero,
make a good decision.
But like how Zero said, you know, we're not defending the guy.
No,
you know,
not at all. No way. Especially when you get accused for that. But you know, that's one of the favorite ones to go to. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, he's raping little kids. You know, who's gonna defend that guy? And that sucks if he didn't do that. But I don't know. I can't comment on that because I don't know him.
The homie Azteca says, it be your own people who perpetrate in the same community. Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yeah. Our own, well, you know, it's crazy. I think I read that Sitting Bull said that he wouldn't be ever killed by a soldier's bullet. But it was his own person that worked for the res police, or I don't know what it was called, or the soldier, but he was a Lakota that shot him. It wasn't a, colonial person. I thought that was a powerful way of living, to declare to the universe that you would never be killed by any colonial oppressor. Now, it was his own person, it was his own tribe member who shot him. So we got to be aware of who we're helping. We got to be aware of who we're trusting.
Hello?
Yeah, hello?
Yo.
Is this Zero?
Yes, it is. What's up, my bro?
Okay. Nice hearing you. I could barely hear you. It sounds like it's kind of far.
There you go.
But, wow, brother. Yeah, my name is David. I'm not the SF. I've been following this podcast for a while here and there.
Thank you for calling into the podcast, man. It means a lot.
Yeah, dude. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys too, man. No, I just wanted to just kind of clear something. I guess when you're showing that one of the kings, the African kings that were like the most richest kings, right? So I was just kind of I brought up that Bible because a lot of the information is in the Bible. And see, with me, I grew up Native and at the same time Catholic, and I used to have I would follow the Catholicism with my family, and then like with my dad, we're part of the American Indian movement, and we'll be doing that, like on the Friday, Saturday, and then like go to church with my grandma on Sunday, and it was always like that. Yeah. And I grew up, so once I got attached, when I went to South Dakota, I got attached to just with more of the old ways and just trying to stay attached with that as my parents broke up, when I was like 2-3 years old. And so I could only soak up so much game that my dad would show me,
Yeah.
And I would try to take that to my mom, but then growing up with my mom, going to school on a daily basis, I had a lot of so-called Mexican influence. I'm Mexican. I'm so-called Mexican and Salvadorian, but it's like all I know is that I'm Lecapoton Indian because of my dad, and that's through the just through the grace of God, I guess, But with the whole Bible thing, recently the last 2 years, I've been seeking the learning, certain truths and things like that through like the Sakari, like the Hebrew Israelite brothers, and they showed me a lot too, and they wanted me to join, but I'm still not 100%, trying to carry a Bible with me on a 24-hour basis and things like that, and I really I still want to learn my old ways more and be in tune with that more, and I don't want my kids to not grow up and be. I don't want them to grow up in a Spaniard mentality, basically. You know what I mean? Ever. Well, but shout out to everyone, listening and writing, and much love to all the brothers, man. I don't want no problems, man. It's all love, man. Unity.
Oh, absolutely. It's all love.
We need that more than ever. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. I could keep going.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's just basically.
Well, I mean, thank you for your comment and calling in, because I think it's important to understand that sometimes we get into a dilemma, right? Because, when we're born under a certain time line, remember I said that time is cyclical, right? And when the invaders came, a lot of people think that the last indigenous people on this continent just gave up their weapons because they knew that it was going to be a 500-year dark period, right? And so my point of saying that is that it seems like you're waking up from that dark time, but you're conflicted because your mom is still stuck in the timeline where church is relevant, no, church is good, and not.
No, well, my mom, she's kind of against it, but you know, she.
Oh, I'm talking about
like
whoever your loved one was that you had to go to church with, right? You go like,
yeah, just
I
like
wanna,
yeah, come on, yeah, my grandma from El Salvador. You know, all she does talk about the Bible, and she hates that I grow my hair out. You know,
exactly.
she hates that.
Yeah, so that's
that
the conflict.
Wow,
that's the
what I
conflict
mean?
that I'm talking about. So I'm talking about that conflict, right? Because you love your grandmother. Why? Who wouldn't love their grandmother?
Yeah.
Like, but unfortunately,
and she still passes down like knowledge, like from her village in El Salvador. You know, like she's and it's just kind of crazy because then like 30 minutes later she's like, yo no quiero ir a esa cosa indígena. Like you just share like a whole thing about indigenous, you know, like we
no.
crazy.
But
I know
they're conflicted. I guess what we should truly kind of be talking about is how conflicted they are because they know what's like. There's one thing about indigenous circles, indigenous practices, indigenous rituals. There's a lot of love put into them. They're not easy to put together. They're not easy to kind of go through the full ceremony. So there's a lot of love there. And when you're a kid and you're innocent before you're indoctrinated to whatever belief system that are forcing you down, if you experience that love as a kid, you kind of remember it. And I don't know if it's true, but I think that's what your grandmother connects with, is that when I was a kid, before I was indoctrinated, all these things made sense to me. But then I grew up, and then I had to go to work, and then I had to go to school, and then I had to go to church. And then it's like, you see, it's not necessarily, but here's the beauty of it, is that the elders said that one day we would remember, and this is that time. So you're remembering, you want to connect. That feeling of wanting to connect is letting go of the old system. Now, your job as a warrior is to ensure your children are completely away from that system. And that's what I've tried to do. I remember one time my kid comes in, he was about 5 years old. 7. No, he's about 7 years old. He's like, Dad, who's Jesus? I was like, what? I just started laughing. I was like, who's who? Jesus. He wants to burn us. And he just started looking up in the air and he started naming off all the things that, and he's like, I'm all, son, first of all, some people believe in that, but don't worry about that stuff because we're connected to this. And I started explaining to him what we're connected, because he was already going to sweat lodges, and he'd been in sweat lodges since he was like months, you know?
That's a beautiful thing. Yeah,
So what I'm trying to relay on you is that it's kind of hard. It's not an easy road when we decide to wake up, or when we decide to walk the red road, or when we decide to be a part of a political movement that represents our people. It's a difficult road to walk. I know, because I'm telling you from my perspective. Huh?
Yeah.
And it sounds like David's being consistent.
Absolutely. Like he's waking up, he's taking his children, he's going, hey man, I don't want the same thing for them. I don't want that much confusion. I don't want that much
I just turned 30. I don't have kids, brother. I'm just saying for my future. You know, I don't, you know. Like,
well, that's what I mean. Even if you don't,
even
if you don't have children, what I'm saying is that if you had one, you're guaranteeing that's not going to happen to him. That's what I did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't know how I was going to do it, but then the sweat lodges came, and then the elders came, and then the ceremonies came, and then these things came, and then the wisdom came, and then the diet came, and now I know how. Like I was talking to this other brother. Shout out to my brother Robin, who came to the shop, and he's like, "Hey, dude, what's your kid's name?" I was like, "Well, my first daughter's name is Mayahuel. My son is Matlat Leonin. Then there's Xolotes Calipoca. And then he just stopped me. He's like, dude, all the responsibility that your kids are going to have to carry with those names. And I'm like, but that's how we ensure we break the cycle.
Bro, like I broke down in tears about this, brother, because it's like, especially when you don't got that, it just ain't extra supported by your side, like with that same mentality, you know, especially like when you know, like my own cousins, like they don't know nothing about their indigenous roots, and I try to tell them, you know, like certain things, like here and there, like uppercut them while we have like conversations of like herbs and things like that. I try to like, you know, sneak, you know what I mean? Just when certain things come out, I try to, but it's like, if you don't grow up, it's very sad. It's like, if you don't got that motivation or, you know, that interest, it's like a lot of our brothers and sisters is gone, man. Like after passing the, like basically age 21 or 18, it's like, it's very hard, you know? Yeah. And it's sad.
Yeah. And I they're gone, huh, Zero?
Yeah.
Like,
well, but that's why powerful art gets
But that's
made.
why I know we got to. I know.
You know, the art has to be. That's why, you know, you run into artists
Creators,
like Immortal
you know?
Technique. You know, Immortal Technique is like one of the greatest hip hop lyricists in a long time. You know, we got tons of artists that are making some very deep music to kind of shift the perspective. You can't control the earth at all. But if we're in a dark time, you can control the people and the people's perception. And if you invent a TV, and if you invent computers, and if you invent cell phones, and you do mass campaigns of propaganda, you'll get people to believe it. So it's our job to take control of what we believe. It sounds like that's what you're doing, bro.
And I'm so happy, keep it up. And I'm so happy that David called in, because, you know, he's a true LA native. You know, like this is our core audience. Cats like him. Yo, thank you for the call, brother.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for picking up. Thank you. I hope.
Wow, that was a good call.
Yeah, it was cool, man. But, you know, a lot of our brothers and sisters suffer through that, you know, the conflict and the confusion, and just stay strong, one step at a time. You don't get to this place. It's not fun if you get to this place in like 2 or 3 steps. The journey's the fun part. The not knowing and the relentless research and going to ceremonies and liking it, and going to ceremonies and not liking it. And that's a part of the journey. Eventually, you'll build a community that believes in the same things, same values, same everything. You strive hard for that. You stay consistent, like Armando said. If you stay consistent, things will change.
And I feel everyone that tunes in to this podcast weekly, they're consistent.
Yes. We have a consistent community, and you know, we're cooking up some new things for you, and it's going to be a cool year to come, because our year is going to barely start. It was not in January.
Shout out to Azteca Maya Danzante.
Yeah, exactly. Our new year starts in March, and we're preparing for that. Like I said before, you know, there's some rituals not rituals, but there's some consistent practices that I implement. And as soon as you learn more and more about your culture, and you start to implement what you learn, not just know. Don't just go read a book and know. Go read a book and implement. How is it going to affect your perspective? How is it going to improve your physical? How is it going to improve your dietary? Because all these elements connect you with Mother Earth. And that's our true goal, is to be at one with all that beauty that is Mother Earth, Father Sky, and all the stars in the universe. We are that reflection. No matter what any oppressor or any manipulator, I mean, Yeah, we got some good stuff coming.
I think next week we're gonna have Jag of Michikunir stop by.
Absolutely, because like I said, March is coming very quickly, and on March 12th is our new Mexica New Year. And Jag does a very big event on that day, so hopefully
Huge event.
So hopefully he has information for us.
And shout out to Tochli from San Jose. He throws an amazing event as well.
He threw one of the biggest ones I've ever been to, where it was like El Vuh played, and there was like 300 vendors, and they had the voladores de Pantla, which is the people that put a pole and they kind of hang themselves and they kind of fly in a circle. Yeah, there's some big things happening this year, and it's only getting stronger. I do believe in the prophecy of our ancestors, and that this is the time that we are waking up. And I don't even think we were ever asleep. We just had to navigate through all the violence and the mistreatment and the lies and the theft. That's a lot to go through. But it makes you stronger, makes you wiser. And those are the things that we need to implement in our lives for it to change. I really appreciate the call that we got because, the brother didn't have kids, but I understood that he did. But if he had the mentality of like, I got to break this cycle, I got to learn and teach the children that I have the truth, not in judgment. Nothing I say against the Vatican or all these thieves, and I may say it with force, but I don't mean it with hate. I mean it with awareness. And you can't step into the eagle's shoes if you never were connected deeply and humbly with the earth and its sunrise and its sunset.
Shout out to the chat, man. It was lit.
Absolutely.
We have a packed house right now, Zero. Make sure you guys subscribe, share the content, hit the like button, add a comment. Be ready for us next week, 8 p.m. Wednesday night. Jag of Michikunir.
Yep.
Any last words, Zero?
Wow. This was a fun show. I mean, it was important to kind of like point out that sometimes the history isn't always told to you. And when you don't have the complete information, then you can't make a complete decision. And that takes time. It's a practice to understand what happened to you, but there's also time to let go and connect with nature in whichever way you can. I think that's the message from at least me, in my perspective. Connect to nature as often as you can. And it doesn't take long. It just takes a minute or two. The longer, the better. But start off with a minute. Start off with 10 seconds. Reflect. Let the sunlight hit your face. Get up early and watch the sunrise. Take a moment to say thank you during the sunset. Connect in that way. If you connect in that way, you'll be one of the most powerful warriors on this earth. Tlaxocamatli, Ometeo, Tonantzin.